Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review, we are looking at the Mafex comic THOR figure. This is a viewer request. I've been requested by tons and tons of people to review this, and so here it is. I like to have as much variety on the channel as I can muster, though we have to try to aim for things that get views. Marvel stuff tends to get views, so I figured, what the heck, let's review it. Some of the Marvel figures from Mafex have turned out to be surprisingly better than I thought they were going to be. Mafex does tend to skew slender and thin on their figures, and so for some of these bigger guys, I just wasn't interested. But after doing Magneto, I thought, okay, maybe Thor will be a pretty good release. And I'll tell you, he's solid. If you're into Mafex, he's a pretty good one. Not perfect, though, and we're going to talk about all of the good and the bad. So let's go ahead and get him off the stand and take a closer look. Alrighty, before we look at the figure, I do want to show you my package. Good packaging. Maybe not my favorite packaging, but it's good. You have the nice big window on the front, a little bit of window on the top, some comic artwork there that always makes the figure look worse. Wish they wouldn't do that. Figure down there. It is a Mafex package. I don't think they're the best by any means, but they are definitely good enough. I do love the backs, though. The backs do a good job of making the figure look like fun, typically. There you go. Not bad on the side. I don't know how many people are going to lay their packages down like this if they're going to save the packaging, but that's what you get. So, alright, yeah, that... The comics look so much better than the figure. It's like he's so much bulkier there, and the colors are more dynamic and good looking, and then you get this, which it makes the figure look unimpressive next to it. So I wish they wouldn't do that. Let's do a question of the day. For those of you who collect on the card or in the box, how do you guys feel about that? Are you tired of packages that make the figures look less good? Because shouldn't they make the figures look more good? That's what I would think. Alright, this guy stands, not counting his little horn tip thingy, spike helmet tip, about 6 1/4, almost on the dot, and that's going to make him, let's say, 16 centimeters, right about there. Here he is up against a Marvel Legends Darwin, so just a touch. Let's get Darwin into a different pose. I had him like that for the Ryu and Ken review, I think. Or no, the Ryu and Ryu review. Okay, there we go. So yeah, I think it's a little undersized. You're not going to be able to fit them together perfectly, but if you wanted to fudge it, you probably could. And here he is up against a different line of figures that some people have said is a really good line of figures. And yeah, he's definitely a little bit small because he's probably closer to true 1/12 scale, which people don't seem to get lately. I've been saying how the new figure art Cyclops is too short. They're like, no, he's 1/12 scale. Like, yeah, nothing else is. What was it, DC? Was it Essentials or DC something or others had a 1/12 scale line, and it died almost immediately. They weren't that good of figures, but it's too small. Nobody makes 1/12 scale. Everything is out of 1/12 scale now. They're all too big. So if you want to match them, you got to be bigger. Story of my life. Alright, so let's talk about this figure. Does it look pretty good? Yeah, for a Mafex figure, he's got a little bit of extra bulk. He's got some nice paintwork on him. His skin tone, it's a little orangey, but there is a lot of shading, so that looks nice. The rest of the paint is clean enough. Not perfect. You can see on his discs there's a little bit of overspray or brush or whatever. Down here on the boots, the black lines aren't super clean. Like, I've seen customs that are cleaner than that, which is not to say, like, okay, so customs are supposed to be better than regular product, but not when you're comparing hand-painted lines to factory-painted lines, which are usually some kind of tampography or machine of some kind, or at least masking and spraying. Either way, it should be cleaner, or at least as clean as a custom, but it's not. So there's that. I think the face is nice. It has that Mafex comic style, that old school look to it, which is kind of like a simplified realism. And I think that looks nice. Like, it's not super stylized, it's just simplified, which is its stylization. But you get what I'm saying, hopefully. Looks nice. The shading in the feathers is really nice. This figure has a lot of nice paintwork on it. The hair is good. I like the face. I think, honestly, the cape is the biggest problem for me, and I know some of you guys love the giant capes that Mafex does sometimes, but this one is probably too big, like I tend to say. It's a really, really big cape, and I don't think most of these characters have the full Batman cape in the source material, the kind where it can go straight out or even farther than straight out on the sides. And the thing that bothers me the most is he's got these things, which we also saw on the steel figure, I think it was, and these are bendable, and they're meant to help keep the cape doing the Magneto thing where the cape poofs up over the shoulder. I say the Magneto thing because that's the character I think of when I think of cape poofs. I don't think of Thor or Steel. But either way, they're in there, and they're not super noticeable, but I don't know that they're super helpful either. Like, we already have the wire in the main cape, and those are obviously in there, and I think it's ugly. You might not notice it on camera as much right now, but in person, they're very obvious. You see these little dangly bits sticking down in there, and it looks like butts, if you ask me. But the cape itself, it's pretty good. I think they could have gone for a little bit more of a regal look. It's got a little bit of metallic to it, and it's not bad. The inside's not so great, though. And like, so the outside generally is what you would want to look good, but on a figure like this, where you're going to see a lot of the inside, I don't like that it's single ply, so you see the stitch work all the way around. You see these things, and it's not metallic on the inside, so it's not doing the figure any favors. It's fine, but it's not great. So aesthetically speaking, it's a pretty good figure. It's not great. It is on sale right now at Big Bad Toy Store, by the way. I'll put a link in the description below. If you're into this line, I think, yeah, get it on sale. Otherwise, it's not gonna like win anybody over, I don't think. But if you're into the line, you'll probably be okay with it aesthetically. So I guess I'll go 8 out of 10. It's not bad. It's pretty good in a lot of ways, and not terrible in others. Now, as far as accessories go, this thing does kind of do a good job. A pretty good job. Decent spread of hands, just standard hands, gripping, clenching, flat, whatever, all the decent hands you would want. And then we get a couple of sets of hands for holding the hammer, whether it's straight up or going forward like he's flying. That's nice. Obviously, you do get the hammer. That's pretty cool. I don't love that the hammer has a big seam going around the bottom, but it's not the worst thing in the world, I guess. You get a mini hammer for his belt, which isn't the best accessory because it doesn't really fit on him particularly well. And you're probably going to end up scratching paint, so be aware of that. You get an alternate head, which I think is really nice. I think this maybe looks better than a standard head. No, it does. I love that head sculpt, and they did a good job painting it, so that's really good. And then lastly, for the main accessories, you get the spinning hammer effect, which is pretty darn good, though it is really heavy, and you do get some display stands. I don't need to show you the display stands. You get some display stands to hold him and the hammer up, and that's sufficient. But they made this a very heavy accessory, so if you're trying to pose things without display stands, which I often do, I hate using them if I can avoid it. I don't think you're gonna do that on this. This is a heavy one, but it is pretty darn cool. Is it the best version of this type of accessory? Maybe not, but it's nice. So yeah, good accessories. I'll go 9 out of 10. We have some room for improvement, but pretty solid. Now, as far as articulation goes, we already talked about the cape. It is wired all the way around, and these little fingers are wired also, so you'll be able to use it. It does come pleated basically in the box, so good luck with that. And then they bend the crap out of the wire in the box too, so you're gonna have to straighten that out to get it to be usable, really, but it's there. Ball pegs in the neck, they're in there, but because of the hair, it's pretty crap. Like, you're not going to really be able to pose him very well. The hair is not flexible, so that kind of sucks. The shoulders are nice, though. They're one of the better sets of shoulders from Mafex, and they tend to do shoulders pretty well. You essentially can pop them out because of the way the ball pegs are in there, so you can tuck them in and make it look pretty seamless, and then you can pop them out and give yourself extra range. Not the most range, but it is functional. It's a really nice setup for shoulders. Like I said, anytime, I've talked about this a lot of the time, in a lot of my videos, anytime you have extra joints in the shoulder to make them more functional, it's going to look less good. But you get that extra range, so that's really just a matter of if you want it or not. And at least on this figure, if you don't want it, just don't use it, and it looks pretty alright unless you go straight on from the side. So that's nice. You get decent range on that shoulder for sure. Bicep swivel is fine, double jointed elbow, one of the better looking elbows on the front, maybe not on the back. It's been a trend lately to criticize these types of joints for being ugly, but they're smooth and they're functional, so I'll take this over insert molding. Obviously this costs a lot more though. Ball hinge wrists, those will be fine. The torso on this guy is surprisingly good. He gets a little gappy if you go too far back, but it is pretty functional. It's just ball pegs, and other than where he bumps into himself, where like they could have trimmed some of this away, I guess, but they probably didn't want to because of this. He does bump into his waist a little bit easily, but it's functional. It's just ball pegs, so that's nice. We have the drop down hips as per usual with Mafex. They will function. It's not the best situation. Drop downs are never the best situation, ever. But he's functional enough for Thor. I don't think we need the splits. Like, I always prefer to have more range than I need, and these hips don't afford it. Mafex's biggest downside is their hips in terms of articulation. The knee functions pretty well, no real problem there. And the legs are pretty well in proportion, not the best, and we don't have the best range either, and this joint loves to get stuck. You have to pull it down and then tuck it in, and then it'll go. And also the knees don't match perfectly. So yeah, a few issues for the ankles. They're not as tight as I would like, which is not an uncommon thing for Mafex. They also don't have the best range going forward and back, but it's not terrible. Ankle rocker is solid for sure. And then the toe hinge is well enough placed and it's well enough executed. It's okay. It's not the worst toe hinge we've ever seen. It's certainly not the best, but it is there. So if you like it, good. If you don't like it, it's not going to kill you. All right. So his articulation, unimpressive, acceptable, but unimpressive. So I will say 7 out of 10. And now it's time for the final verdict. Is this a really good Mafex release? One of their better figures? Maybe. I don't know. There's some things that are really nice about it, but other things that aren't. So I'll say it's pretty average for a good Mafex figure. Nothing super impressive, but good enough if you needed a Thor in his classic look. So I'm going to give him an overall rating of... I think I'm going to go 7 out of 10 just because I don't like his articulation as much and his cape. His accessories are pretty good though. I don't know, that cape, I guess it really comes down to the cape. And I guess I'll leave it up to you guys. You could go argue 8 and I wouldn't argue against it. But I'm going to go 7. I'm going to err on the side of caution for you guys so that you don't go in gung-ho, guns a-blazing saying this is an 8 and then you get it and I think it's a 7. So that's what I'm going to say. So there it is, guys. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please do give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. And if you haven't subscribed, you should. I have new videos just about every single day and thousands already on the channel. So make sure you come back for all of that. And in the meantime, keep collecting.